That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, that don't sound right, send us a comment. You're one of us.
Yeah. Because they're pretty voracious. I mean, they're not really, and I'm not, you're not really worried about them eating your food.
Right.
You're worried about them eating your clothes and your backpack and your tent and your socks.
Yes.
That's true.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, Cecil. How's it going?
Good.
Hey, it's good to be back. Good to be back with the listeners. Thanks for spending the next 10 to 15 minutes with us, listening to our talking and trying to figure things out.
And this may be our best sounding episode. We're using the highest quality mics we've ever used. Again, thanks to our listener that sent them in.
Yeah, I mean, that was so kind. I mean, these are amazing. I mean, they're sturdy.
Yeah.
They're heavy.
Yeah.
They're substantial.
They have gravitas.
That's a good word for it. That's a good word for it. So hopefully our listeners are enjoying our voices just a little bit more.
That's right.
Because I think the past couple episodes we had some what I call warbling.
Right.
And we did just figure out what happened. There's something on the plug on our mixer box here, but I think we've got that solved. So
and we didn't Google it either. We just solved it.
That's right. We did some good old-fashioned troubleshooting.
Yes. And that's the thing. That troubleshooting, you start with the easiest thing. Just like with a car electrical system.
Well, isn't there this thing called Occam's razor? Have you heard of Occam's razor?
I've heard of it, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
Occam's razor? Well, maybe I'm about to obfuscate and declarify what Occam's razor is, but out of a certain number of solutions, the simplest one is the most likely.
Really?
Yeah.
That to me is cat. I call it eliminatus calculatus from Cat in the Hat. So that's the same as the same concept.
So Dr. Seuss basically.
Dr. Seuss basically.
Occam.
Occam razor.
All right. Well.
So you've done I would say a considerable amount of backpacking.
I've grown up basically since middle school.
Yeah.
Backpacking all throughout the East Coast, on the Appalachian Trail, other trails. And you yourself, you're a big backpacker. There's no question.
I feel like I've done, a respectable amount of backpacking.
Right. I mean, you have a goal to try to not at least get big sections off. So by the time you're no longer backpacking, you can say you backpacked the whole trail, right?
Yeah. That's So I have some guys I backpack with, and we've done a good amount of the trail.
You're running out of time, Cecil. You know what we might consider doing is just shoot for hiking a good section of the trail in every state that it's in. That might be fun.
That would be fun. You could say you've been on AT in every state.
Every state, that's right.
So there's something that happens. So I learned to backpack, and this may actually be another podcast, because have you ever told somebody you're going backpacking and they immediately say, "Oh, I want to go backpacking too"?
Oh, yeah.
And then you start talking about it.
There's something romantic about the idea of backpacking, right?
And then the next question is, do y'all spend the night? And you're like, yeah. And then the question about the bathroom comes up, and then they're out.
Right. And well, what about your food?
Right.
It's on your back.
Yeah.
What about it's on your back.
Yeah.
It's on your back.
Yeah.
How heavy does this thing get?
And so they start out with the romantic notion, and then it quickly disappears.
That's right.
But so I learned, again, it's not a complicated sport, but I learned to backpack through a guided trip that I went on as when I was in high school.
Okay.
I went on 2 guided trips.
A guided trip?
Well, it's just it was outfitted.
Okay.
Both of them were outfitted.
All right. So they had all the gear. They provide you the equipment, the food. You probably just have to pack it yourself.
Yep.
And you got to carry it yourself.
Yeah, and we had people with us. And so one was called Christian High Adventure.
Okay.
And so it was through a camp. And then the other one was called the Mini Christian High Adventure. And so it was through the same group. It was just over a shorter amount of time. But everything I kind of learned from them, and then from reading But one of the things you learn is to bear bag your food. I did.
Right.
I learned to always bear bag.
And so what is bear bag?
Yeah, so, what we would do at night is you take all your food or anything that has a smell, I even bear bag toothpaste.
Yes, I've heard of this.
Yeah, and so you put it in a bag, and then you find a limb about 15 or 20 feet high.
Got to be high.
And it's got to go out from the tree about 15 feet.
It's got to be long.
It's got to be long.
And you're usually doing this at night.
And you're right. If you don't think, you're usually doing this in the dark.
Well, because usually you get to your campsite at dusk.
Right.
Because you've been hiking to 14 to 18 miles.
Right.
You're beat.
Yeah.
Now you got to find a bear bag tree.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So,
but yeah.
Exactly.
We've done this before. We've been down this road before.
Right. And so I've always bear bagged my
Always.
food. Always. Anywhere that I'm at, I've always bear bagged.
Even even places where there's likely no bear?
Yes.
Okay.
I've always bear bagged. I can think of I don't know that I can think of an occasion where I have not bear bagged.
I can think of some advantages of doing it even when there's not any bear.
Right. Now, some people like mice bag.
Yeah.
And so, like you've seen at the...
Actually, I've never heard of mice bagging. I can understand why you'd want to do that.
So, like you're in an Appalachian Trail shelter, and that, for those of who have never been on the Appalachian Trail, about every 18 to 20 miles, they have shelters that you can use. They're three-sided shelters. Sometimes they're nicer.
Yeah.
But sometimes you'll see a string that goes through a tuna can or a can of chicken, just the can, and then it comes down to a little stick. And so it's hanging from the roof, and that you hang your bag on that, and the mice can't get to it because of the can.
I don't think I've ever seen one of those.
Yeah.
I don't think So explain that again. So there's a rope.
Yeah, so there's a...
And the tuna can has a hole in it?
So the rope goes through the tuna can, and then it goes down to a little stick, and then you just hang your bag on that stick.
The stick serves as like a hook.
Yeah, the stick serves as a hook.
All right,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the tuna can... It's empty.
Yes.
And it's open on one end.
Right.
And the open end's facing down.
Exactly.
And so the mice can't physically get around that can to reconnect to the rope and go down.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty voracious. I mean, they're not really, and I'm not, you're not really worried about them eating your food.
Right.
You're worried about them eating your clothes and your backpack and your tent and your socks.
Yes.
That's what you're worried about.
Yeah, exactly. And so some people will mice bag their stuff.
Okay.
But I always bear bag.
All right.
And so, but I have come to believe that there is no such thing as bear bagging. That if a bear wants what you have, you cannot, there's nothing that will keep a bear. And so I'm getting ready to tell you a story to support this.
Okay.
There's no way to keep, if a bear wants what you have, there's no way to keep it from you.
Okay.
So we were backpacking up near Hot Springs one year, me and the guys I backpacked with. And so we got up there and we got to an outdoor store, the Outfitter, and they said there's been some bear activity and you need to be careful. So we knew about where the bear was.
Okay.
This bear had harassed some hikers. Evidently had held a young couple and a baby in one of the AT shelters for a while, like as he paced outside the shelter.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So we knew the bear was up there.
All right.
So we stopped for the night, and we cooked, and we cleaned up, and then we hiked another mile or two to a place called Cat Pen, and then we set up camp.
And the reason you do that is so that the smell of the food cooking is away from the place where you're sleeping and being quiet. And
yes, exactly. And so we got to the campsite, we set up our camp, and we bear bagged.
Right.
So we had a great bear bag tree.
All right.
Big tree, long branch, had it 15 feet off the ground.
The idea is that the bear, can't reach it from the ground.
Right.
He can't reach it from the tree trunk.
Right.
And he can't crawl out onto the limb and get down to it.
Yes.
I mean, that's the idea.
Exactly. So we had a great setup for this particular bear bag. Went to sleep, and I tend to get up once or twice during the night. So I was probably up at least once. No trouble.
All right.
But in the morning, a bear had taken our bag.
Okay.
But he had climbed the tree. You could see where he climbed the tree, the scratch marks. And he didn't break the limb out like 10 feet out. He broke the limb at the tree.
He broke the limb.
Yes.
He broke the limb. How big of
It was a
limb
big limb. I mean, it was probably 12 inches in
How far
diameter.
was this away from your tent, and how did you not hear this thing?
I don't know. I think I did hear it.
Massive ruckus.
I think I may have heard it and woke up, but just didn't realize what was happening. But he broke the limb at the tree.
That's impressive.
If you can imagine how much power that had to be.
Impressive.
Because even a small branch at the tree would have been hard to break. So he breaks the branch at the tree.
Is there a chance he crawled out on that limb and the branch fell and he fell?
I think I would have heard that.
I mean, it would have been a lot louder thump with the bear hitting the ground.
That's a possibility.
But anyway.
So the bag is on the ground. He's rummaged through it.
Okay, so this is not a bear-proof container.
No, this is just a bag.
Okay.
But now he's got it. And so we see where he goes through it. And then he carries about 100 yards up the mountain. And we find another place where he rummages through some more stuff.
How did you track it?
You can kind of see where he went.
Okay.
And he's dropping stuff. And he eats everything. And then
he's not cleaning up the wrappers
No.
afterwards.
And we track him to maybe one or two more sites to find stuff. And so we actually found a Nalgene, how do you say that? Nalgene?
I call it Nalgene.
Nalgene bottle that he had bit into. So my friend has
What's
that
in
bottle
there?
still. It was nothing was in it.
Just water.
Yeah, he bit into it, so he's got this cool souvenir.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. And so so the only thing we could find was one beef stick.
Beef stick.
But it was so slobbered on that we couldn't chance it.
It was not.
Yeah, but all the food's
recoverable.
gone. Food is gone. We've got 2 days of hiking left. Not a lot of mileage, but still we still have about a day and a half.
Right. Yeah, you're out.
And we have no food.
That's perfect. How far away from your car?
So
I mean, can you turn around and go back?
no, because we had been dropped off.
Oh,
We had shuttled.
Yeah.
So we had to hike up.
Uncle Johnny?
We were too far from Johnny, but the shuttle, the people that told us about the bear had shuttled us in.
Okay, all right.
So, so I say all that. We hiked the entire rest of the way out that day. It was a long day.
Okay.
And there's another great story about it.
Okay.
So we hiked all the way out that day with no food. We had water.
Okay.
We had a bottle of whiskey, but no food.
That'll keep you going.
And we made it out. We weren't going to starve.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. But when we got back to town, and we got back to that outfitter, and they learned that we had been cleaned out by the bear, he said, "Look behind the door." And I looked behind the door, and there's a picture of a cable, and it's strung between two trees.
Yeah.
And about 20 feet out on that cable is a bird feeder. And there's a bear that has shimmied out upside down on the cable out to that bird feeder.
Just to get the... And thus, your statement...
Yes.
There's nothing you can do. I mean, you could have put you could have put the things in a bear-proof container.
I don't think that would work.
I don't think you would have smelled it. I
Right.
mean, that's part of the thing. Is that you can smell it,
Yeah.
and that is the idea of getting it up high.
Right.
Also, is to disperse the smell. But
Yeah.
this dude was tuned into beef sticks.
Yes. Yeah. No, he got it. But yeah, you can get the bear-proof, bomb-proof containers.
Right. But I mean, you might as well.
And we've seen YouTubes of that.
You might as well go car camping.
Right. If you're going to carry that.
Yeah, it probably weighs a ton.
Yeah. But I've also seen they have the cables at the.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen bears tear down those cables.
Man. Yeah.
Which brings us to our words of wisdom.
Bring it.
So our words of wisdom for tonight, our new segment. All right. If you are in a situation where you're attacked by a bear or have an encounter with a bear, you don't have to outrun the bear.
Well, okay.
You just have to outrun one of your friends.
Ah.
And not all of your friends, just one of your friends.
Just one of them.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the fastest.
You don't have to be the fastest.
You just don't want to be the slowest.
You don't want to be the slowest. That was a long story to get to my point, but.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Have you ever had trouble with bears?
I'm trying to think. I've never had. You know what the funny thing about me is? I rarely see any kind of wildlife when I'm hiking.
Really?
I don't know if I just I give off this vibe, or I just smell extra human. But I rarely see wildlife.
Huh.
I mean, it is the strangest thing. Someone will say, "Oh, did you see that?" I'm like, no.
Huh.
Did you see the deer? There's a whole herd of deer just went by.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Maybe it's my glasses, but
right.
Like you say, I mean, the only encounter I've had, and I only know this because I was with people.
Yeah.
We were we were canoeing. We were canoe camping.
Right.
On the James River in Virginia.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And we found an island, and we had a great campsite to ourselves, and the weather was going to be clear, so we didn't pitch a tent. We slept outside.
Right.
Well, evidently, and unbeknownst to me, because I slept through the whole thing, there were 2 bucks on the island. And they were fighting for position in the middle of the night.
Oh, man.
And the guys that I was with, they thought they were going to die because the deer got so close in fighting. They got close to us while they were fighting.
Right.
They don't even know if they probably saw us because they can see it at night a little better. But I slept through the whole thing. So once again, plenty of wildlife out there. I just don't encounter it. Like, are you scared? I'm not scared of snakes. I'm not afraid of snakes.
No.
You know why? Because I never see a snake.
You never see them. This is bringing up. There's a lot more backpacking stories that we have. Well, now that we've started.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
I know it doesn't sound right, but we've really come to the end of yet another podcast of That Don't Sound Right.
Yeah, well, I tell you, if we need to come up with some other material, maybe some folks will give us some of their bear stories or wildlife stories. I'd like to see pictures because obviously I never see wildlife.
Yeah, right. Well, it's been another good episode, but remember to keep talking
and stay curious.